It runs Linux. You can plug a monitor and a keyboard directly into it and do other processing work. But the machine learning model gets loaded up into here. All the data gets loaded in when it's racing through the camera in front. This is set up for fast, non-obstacle racing, so no depth perception. Only one camera here. If we had depth perception, if we had obstacles, we would simply add additional cameras. We'd add a LiDAR on top. And then the shell just goes on top of that to protect it from running into the walls, because an off track in the physical world doesn't just reset it automatically. It keeps going until someone picks it up and puts it back on the wall, which goes to why do people love the in-person racing? Because it's just fun seeing the vehicles go spinning around the track on their own, doing their own driving. We've got track bosses that are out there that have to wear special socks because they don't want to tear up the track, and they are running at full speed. There is no gym membership needed if you're one of the on-track track bosses, because you're chasing these things trying to make sure they're on the track as much as possible.
I'll tell you who's on the track right now, and that is one of the verified stars of DeepRacer. It's DBro. He's already taken home some hardware. He was the champion in Brussels. What was that, last week, right? And his first lap out of the box, how about a 26.5? And he's going faster so far. Personal best in Sector 1. Personal best in Sector 2. Right now in Sector 3, here on his second flying lap across the start-finish line, 26 seconds flat. That is a very good lap. Puts him up to P2 and bumps Tony J out of one of those transfer positions. Remember, top 3 transfer to reinvent at the end of the season. DBro trying to clinch that spot here nice and early. And we talked earlier about how open the DeepRacer community is. One of the guys who took a lead in that early was Darren DeBro, who we'll be hearing from later in the show.
Absolutely. Names like DeBro, Bread-Centric, these are all names that have come towards helping to build this community. We've got some people who are just joining us, and as I speak over the music, which suddenly got very loud for some reason, let me try to explain to you a little bit about what you are seeing here. This is AWS DeepRacer. This is virtual autonomous racing. The cars you are seeing racing right now are not being controlled by humans. They are driving and steering themselves based on machine learning models or artificial intelligences that our developers have spent the last few months refining, have loaded into the car, and are essentially letting the cars now drive themselves. The only control that our developers have in the moment is what we call a percentage of throttle. How fast can the vehicle go if it's going full out? And these cars can go pretty fast. They can go as fast as 4 meters per second. And at 1/18th scale, that's moving around, in some cases, faster than the machine learning model can make choices. But right now, DeBro, with a purple Sector 2, is making some amazing choices. This may be the lap coming in 25.801.
1/1000th of a second, Blaine. He goes to the top of the charts by 1/1000th of a second. See, it's not hyperbole when we talk about the fractions of a second that matter in DeepRacer. That is amazing. Remarkable. DeBro to the top of the charts, and he's not done yet. Still on a flyer here. Looks like he's not improved in either of the first 2 sectors, but it doesn't tell us how far off he was. If he has a great third sector, could still improve. He does not. Won't have enough time to complete another lap, but oh my goodness. How about that drama? And how much of a gut punch is that to Duckworth? 1/1000th of a second.
I keep telling you, the next thing we've got to do, and I'm telling this to Trackmeister Jen, who I know is still listening to the feed, we have got to get some live cameras on each of our developers. I want Duckworth's reaction to seeing being put down in the number 2 position by 1/1000th of a second. This is just amazing. We'll get a chance to talk to DeBro as he now sits in first position in just a second. But as we get Robert from Spain on the track, there's a few things we want to talk about DeepRacer, why it exists, why we do this competition. It's fun. We're here to obviously see who can build the fastest model. But more importantly, we're here at AWS to help everyone around the world understand how to play more with machine learning, how to play with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, machine learning has been around for a long time. We've heard of things like supervised learning, where I can present an engine thousands, millions of faces and have it learn facial recognition based on images that I give it and tell it, this is what Blaine looks like. This is what Ryan looks like. This is what Serena Williams looks like. And it can start to tell the three of us apart very easily. There's unsupervised learning, where we just give it a whole bunch of data and let it try to figure out what's up next. This is reinforcement learning. It's a completely different style of machine learning, and DeepRacer is here to help educate anybody about what reinforcement learning can do. We talk about training a dog, and that's exactly what reinforcement learning is. You set up a series of rewards, a set of, it's called a reward function, where the vehicle, as it's training, earns points, earns rewards by doing good things, just like a dog gets treats if it does the right trick. Over time, the vehicle learns all these tricks, it tries experimenting, it tries different things to get the most treats, the most advantage based on the reward function that each developer does differently. And then that's where convergence happens. That's where the model then solidifies. That's what gets put in the car right now. So being able to have this educational process in addition to a competition, that's why DeepRacer exists.
And to your point, we've seen a lot of big-time companies. JP Morgan Chase comes to mind. There certainly are others, and I don't mean to omit them for any particular reason, but JPMC is a great example because they've had so many of their developers go on and do really good things within the DeepRacer League, but they chose DeepRacer to educate their employees about machine learning. They recognize that this is going to be fun, this is going to engender some camaraderie within the company, and the net benefit is when they're done having fun, when they're done working together as a team, all of our employees are going to understand this element of coding that much better. And it's been a huge deal. The buy-in from the corporate world has been a big part of the success of the DeepRacer League, and it's great to see all of that. And it's been a wonderful learning tool, as we talked about. If you want to get involved, if you think this looks like fun, even if you don't have previous machine learning or even coding experience, a lot of people have used this to jumpstart, as we like to say, your machine learning journey. And there's a reason we use that terminology. People see the fun in it, they see the competition, but ultimately it's a massive educational tool.
Absolutely. In fact, DeBro, who just, again, by 1/1000th of a second is now on top of the leaderboard, came to us through one of these corporate competition. DeBro works for Liberty Mutual, and I won't sing the jingle because, number one, I don't have the rights to it. Number two, I don't want to get it in your head. But let's go ahead and bring DeBro on. We'd like a chance to talk to DeBro, not only about what just happened here, but what's happened in Brussels. Folks, we'd like to introduce one of our top competitors, Darren Broderick, a.k.a. DeBro. DeBro, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hi, Ben. Good, considering the last few minutes there.
Yeah, your heart rate must be a little bit higher than expected at this point. Tell us a little bit about the race that just happened. I mean, before we talk about other things, my goodness, you're sitting on top barely. How are you? What's happening in your head?
Well, first of all, I messaged Duckworth Lars and apologized for the small gap between us two, but while you're racing, you can just see him sitting at the top, so the wee table's sitting there while you're racing. And I think I had 26 flat, and I was pretty happy with that. I thought that gets me third, but we know who's going to be coming shortly with some really good models with JJ Flat Earth and others as well. So hanging in there just by the smallest time you could.
Oh yeah, this race is not over. We're about to face the heart of the top competitors that qualified this year as we move forward. But let's set that to the side. This race is continuing. Was it last week? Last week I saw you in Brussels. We had a chance to compete there in the physical world. You won. You came home with a trophy, actual physical iron. Talk to me about what happened in Brussels.
Yeah, Brussels was just a chance to get back to the physical aspect because it was December 2019 since we last got to race on the track. Only for David Smith and his underground crew were we able to even see a physical track and test our models. So it was great to win, but I was going just to kind of show support and also just because it was a love to miss it as well.
Absolutely. By the way, let's catch people up on what happened. Robert just finished their run, coming in at 28.603, puts Robert in the 7th slot. Certainly a lot of room for improvement there on the track right now from the United States. AJM Model 1. But let's talk more about the physical race that happened in Brussels. You were on the physical track here behind me, and I wish I could turn my camera better so you could actually see the track. Actually, I'm going to have someone move the camera. I'm going to take me off screen and actually show you what the track looks like physically. I'd like you to talk us through kind of how this track plays out in terms of racing in the physical world.
Yeah, I should have brought a whiteboard, Blaine, because it's a really interesting track that Joe designed, kind of in the mindset of you have your straight center corners. So with the original track, you had the really tough hairpin, and with the 2019 track, you had a lot of curves. So I think this is kind of a hybrid between the two. But I've actually found it the most challenging physically. So kind of where you see the start line that's all good. You can carry out that in probably about 3 seconds. The corners are quite tight, but it's all about that twist chicane then going into the last corner that you've seen as well. When I tried so many models, they always seem to slow down a bit too much. But well, that's when you want the most speed. There's probably a straight within there. It's just very hard to get that in the physical world. A lot easier in the virtual world, but then you run the risk of overfitting your model if you try to do that too hard.
You know, absolutely right. When we saw this live there on the track, and this is even a better angle now that we're putting in there, yeah. Those straightaways, you can get really fast on them from the start-finish line, but then hitting that first corner, we saw car after car just completely miss the turn and go smash full speed into the wall. And all 4 of the major corners, there was no single corner that seemed to be the problem. Talk to me about the kind of strategies you would put in when training the vehicle for this track, because this is going to be the physical track in all of our races for 2022 if you're in person.
Yeah, so it's really, the physical tracks are really interesting how they've developed. You can race them, as in, for people that don't know, you can put a percentage of your battery to like increase the speed of the car. The first 2 tracks you could do is really, really tough to do it in this one because those 2 straights are really tempting to burn out, but then trying to like account for finger speed and latency in the Wi-Fi and the network, you're probably gonna, as you say, just crash over. So I would urge people to think more about letting the car actually be even more autonomous than we would like it to be, because we want to be in control of something, but if it could slow down for you on those corners, that's where you're going to get a lot of speed, a lot of time saved, because the best I could do is just over 9.5 seconds. I think there's an 8-second time in there, but you really need the car to work for you, not you try to race the car. I think I'm really interested to see how Sola will do it when she comes onto the scene, because she's probably the best racer.
For those of you who haven't been with us, Sola was the champion racer in the 2019 season. She races out of Tokyo, and ever since she first came on the scene, her physical racing prowess has just been unmatched. She still holds the world record on 2 of our physical track designs. She has not yet raced on this one. I'll be very excited to see how she does on this.
Yeah, myself as well, Glenn, because I held the record for 1 hour in Reinvent before she took it off me. So at least I held this one for a few weeks.
Enjoy the records while you have them. That's always critical.
Yeah,
DeBro, before we let you go, just first of all, let me catch everyone up. AJM Model 1 now sits in 8th place with 29.666 as their lap. Ross Comp racing from the United States, now making their first run around the track. DeBro, any tips that you've got for people that are just getting started? People that are looking at this going, this looks like fun. What do I do? How do I get started? What are the tips you would give a brand new racer?
Yeah, I would encourage physical initially because it's more fun and you wouldn't have to train a model for as long. If you can't get to any physical summits, I would look to do the underground deep racing. So that's something that the community offers, and it'll be promoted, I'm sure, at different points. If all those are out the door and you still want to do virtual, you can create your own community race and have that be something you can invite your friends or your company over to. So I think it's just getting some exposure, but if you're looking to get physical, I think you just need track time to try out your different experiments. And if you're trying out and you don't know anything about DeepRacer, the default reward functions, if that makes sense, when you get into the console, those are actually very good to get you started.
Absolutely. I'm going to pause you right there. We're on what could be a critical lap right here. There we go, 25.535. I wanted a live reaction. I got a live reaction. DeBro is no longer sitting in first place as Roscomp now relegates DeBro to number 2. Duckworth is now sitting at number 3. So with that, DeBro, I love seeing the tears in your eyes. I live for the pain. It's why we do this. But seriously, in all thought, thank you so much for joining us, DeBro. Glad I got a chance to see you in Brussels, and I think you're going to be here live in Paris tomorrow too. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Rob.
All right, Ryan, oh my goodness, what a way to end that interview.
Well, we saw it shape it up, and I'm glad you noticed it too. The purple first 2 sectors, and then you got what you asked for. DeBro on the live shot got to see his fast lap knocked off of his perch there. This next lap here from Roscomp hasn't been quite as quick, but what I really liked about this run, and I was watching it closely while you were talking to Darren, and it was great to see DeBro again, one of the long-standing competitors, and I've got a point I want to make about him in just a second if I could remember. But what Roscomp has done here, I think was really prudent, and we've seen some of the good developers do this. The first lap was good but not great, a 27-second lap. Then you could visually see that he had increased that speed multiplier that you were talking about earlier, and the car went a little bit quicker. And then the next lap, a little bit quicker still, ultimately setting that fast lap a moment ago. Now he's trying to find the sweet spot. He's seen where sometimes you increase that speed multiplier too far and the car becomes unstable. You actually lose time as a consequence. So he's trying to dial that in right now, and that's why we're seeing slower sectors in Sector 1, but fast in Sector 2 that last time. And I think the reason he's doing this is he's experimenting for the second round. If he needs to go faster, he's trying to find that limit so that he's ready to go. Time runs out here, but right now, move Roscomp 1 to the top of the leaderboard. A couple points I wanted to make about what DeBro was talking about, if it's okay, Blaine. Number one, you heard from, at the time, the fastest developer yet, basically giving away his trade secrets. So when we talk about how open the community is, DeBro's a great example of that, and he's been pioneering in terms of building the community and welcoming new people in. And so that's one of the reasons that the community has grown, is because there are people there to help you. The other thing I wanted to bring up, relative to the 2 developers we saw before, we talk about each developer, each model with a personality. Well, I think Robert, who was up right before we saw Roscomp 1, he's always had such a smooth model. It never makes mistakes. It might not be super fast, but it's silky smooth, very consistent. DeBro is a guy who is full out attack all the time. We've seen that in person. That was the secret to his success in 2019 when he briefly had that track record he was talking about. And you can see the personality of the developers in their models. Flat Earth's one of those too. He's been a stalwart competitor for the last couple of seasons, and this is going to be one to keep a close eye on.
Absolutely. We are down to our last 2 competitors here for this opening round. flat earth.
Wave of the slide was so important. That lap was compromised, that first lap, but it at least allowed him to get a nice rolling start here into the second lap. He's been faster in both sectors so far. How about at the line? A 26-1. It's better than his first lap, but not good enough to challenge for the top three. There's a box collision. That spells trouble here on lap 3.
Yeah, that's a sign we might be into the same problem that our other racers have, which as they start to get past that comfort zone on that speed multiplier, that the vehicle just does not behave well. Teenagers don't like to get woken up early. They don't like to get pushed. You kick them too hard. They don't like that either. Don't ask me how I know. I won't admit it in court. These are all things that we see, and pushing too hard is causing problems.
That's right. He's exceeding the amount of grip available in these virtual tires on this virtual tarmac, and that is costing him time. You know, a drift around the corner in real motorsports, it looks spectacular. Very rarely is it fast, especially on a paved surface, right? And what we're seeing from DeBro, spectacular, without a doubt, but it has not given him the ultimate pace he is seeking. That said, Sector 1 was good. Sector 2, he did give up some time. If he can put together a great Sector 3, though, this is a lap that could challenge through that final hairpin, accelerating to the start-finish line, and spins off track when it looked like he had a 25-second lap in the offing.
Oh. That looked like that could have been a shake-up lap. And unfortunately, just right there at that last second, just couldn't keep the tires on the track. Okay.
And now, multiple resets on the same box, and now it off track. This is trouble because there's not much time left. Right now for DeBro, it's about trying to get around and at least have the time for one last attempt, and I don't think the math checks out here, Blaine. I think this spells trouble for DeBro.
No, and it was box number 1 of all the boxes. Yeah. That's the one that hasn't touched our competitors ever. That's one that I'm like, Jen, why'd you even bother putting that one there? Nobody cares about it. And it's going to be the one that's going to prevent DeBro. No, there is enough time. Mathematically, There is absolutely enough time. But it's going to have to be the race.
Oh, but the box 1 of all the boxes proves to be his undoing. You know what? What was interesting is the only reason that there was going to be enough time is he had a purple Sector 3. DeBro in that third sector there was the fastest of anyone so far, and it kept him in the game, but only for a split second. It looks like this is the end of the road here this month for DeBro. Our top 3 are locked in.